Well, I will say as an update, the Flint office of the FBI called me yesterday. Actually, they called community activist Art Woodson. Want to know how they
Okay.
get hold of me? I never called them back. Well,
Oh shit! They called
called.
you. Have you didn't talk to him?
I did call him with Mr. Carpenter right after the bid was open, or excuse me, the pre-bid conference. And I was on hold forever. I told the officer of the FBI who reached out to me yesterday, nice guy, been there a long time. I guess they're going to send a veteran for this case. They need to do something. The Detroit office of the FBI, I think they've indicted 40 some guys here in the last 3 years. The FBI, I don't know if I read it on my show or not, but the FBI, their website, take a look at it. It says their number one priority is public corruption. They're
Right.
failing in Flint, Michigan, because they're more
Failing.
corrupt politicians. And I'll give you a tip here. We mentioned at our press conference last week with John Carpenter and Bob Carmack, a couple of business guys who have been through a lot of problems dealing with government. I lost count. I think it's 62 indictments that we have for the FBI. I'm going to put all the evidence in a big packet, put a bow on it, and drop it at their door. Maybe I'll paste a sign on the door that says, you need to be closed because they're not doing their job. I guess I should get paid thousands of dollars for doing all the investigations. I've got 12 people that don't live where they say they live, and yet they're serving in local government positions. And by the way, they signed an affidavit under penalty of perjury. I live here, and they don't. Why aren't they in prison? Perjury is 5 years. We had a case with Eric Mays. They had the jury. I was there. Even though I'm on dialysis, wasn't working, I went to check it out because I knew I'd be talking about it on the radio someday. This
Right.
Perkinroder, nice lady, arguing all the time on the city council with Eric Mays. She lied under oath. The judge said so. The judge instructed the special counsel. You can't use that testimony. Eric Mays, they showed to the jury where he said, can I be excused? She said yes. He comes back and she says, where are you? You can't come back to this meeting. Well, yeah, I can. You excuse me. And she says, oh, no. Where you been? He goes, well, if you must know, lady, I had to poop. That's his exact quote. Now, the jury saw that. They saw her say, yes, you can come back to the meeting. Yes, you can be excused. Now, the judge, she read the riot act to the special prosecutor and said, you need to tell the jury that witness lied, that she committed perjury. He wouldn't do it. He started arguing with the judge. Unbelievable. Mike Gildner is his name. Why is he still a lawyer? That's my question. Why? I don't get it. Is there a Michigan Bar Association? Eric,
Mike.
Lawyers, the statute 6 years, I think. Why aren't his lawyers earning their money? Have that man disbarred. That's my opinion. The judge, she called him out. Judges don't arrest people. You see that the justice behind her. There's a police department that arrests people. A prosecutor gives the warrant. A prosecutor prosecutes, and the jury and judge decide, or a judge decide the fate. One can't do it. So the judge can't do anything. She needs the police to bring it to her. And by the way, that judge, she has ethics. She worked as a young person going to college as a reporter at a newspaper of mine called Tri-County News out in Fenton, Linden, Holly area. She's got ethics. I applaud her for what she said. TV 12, TV 5, TV 25, the Journal. Where were you on this one? We have no media in this town. None. I've been exposing stories for years with my newspapers. Used to, I said at the press conference last week, sometimes I get real frustrated. Being retired because my wife wanted me retired, I've been sitting around watching. The news gets worse. Some of the reporters, they confess to me that they sit around every morning, listen to the Morning Gazette radio show, and then decide what their stories are. You hear it on the Morning Gazette radio show, and 2, 3, 4 days later, it pops up on the TV or in the Journal.
They watch you.
I expose somebody, and right away they go to jail. Now we expose somebody, we got to do the whole investigation. because the police don't do their job. Do the investigation, present the evidence, nothing happens. You heard from Jason Neely. Do you think he's soliciting a bribe? He's hinting around. You got to come to my fundraisers. I'm taking you off the Christmas card list. Do you think he was wanting a bribe? Put yourself in the shoes of the businessman. And by the way, I got an update. This business is 85 years old. Yeah. Okay. Art Woodson was pushing for him to go to the FBI and wire himself. He didn't want to do that. He didn't even want to go to the FBI. He just wanted to get the bid, save the golf courses. That was his interest. And don't kid yourself. He wants to make a lot of money. He's got his son involved. He's got 19 partners. The guy wants to make money. That's what he did at Sugarbush out in Davison. The Don. He was his right-hand man. All the stories you hear about the Don, and I'll share one. You remember all the stuff out in Owasso about the problems with the unions. And John Carpenter is the guy, not Don Williamson, that called up in order, I think, 6, 7, 8 dump trucks of cow manure, dumped it all up and down the sidewalk. And then he went out with donuts that morning when the picket sign showed up. Hey, you guys want some donuts? Where are you going? What do you mean it stinks? That guy's a heck of a businessman. Sheldon Neely, you're in trouble. And I got to help you, Sheldon, because I pity you. He called John Carpenter because he found out he's in Florida. He called him, and John was pretty rattled because Sheldon's like, I want you to say that you didn't tape record me. Mike Kilbreath did. Well, the tape is clear, Sheldon. It says push this red button right here, and you're recording. The old man didn't even know how to turn on his speakerphone. We told him, hey, just get your speakerphone, turn your cell phone toward that little recorder. Honestly, we didn't set up a good recording because I didn't think the mayor would actually ask him for money the way he did. I mean, put yourself in the shoes of the businessman. That's what they face all over the place. It's called pay to play. Give me money, you get the contract. He doesn't say it, but he hints around at it. You haven't been to my fundraisers. And he attacked AC Dumas. I want to salute AC. The only media guy in the Flint area that showed up for the pre-bid conference. He smelled a rat. He told us afterward that, community activist Art Woodson told me I should come here. There's going to be a big story. So that's the story behind the story. Sheldon Neely last night, he's trying to, or 2 nights ago now, trying to pin down Carpenter. Did you give him permission? And Carpenter played along. No, I guess not, Sheldon. Give me permission for what? John Carpenter hit the button to tape recording, and it's perfectly legal, Sheldon. Before you waste a lot of money on the city attorneys doing your private business, because this is not city business. So you're in trouble right there. As far as I'm concerned, it's illegal to use your city attorneys to figure this out because he said, we're going to arrest Kilbreath. Come on. You want my address, Sheldon? Come and get me because we'll have handcuffs on you soon.
Man, what an update, Mike. And speaking of Eric Mays, I want to ask you, Mike, why you think a lot of people didn't support Eric when he tried to subpoena Rick Snyder? Remember that?
I remember that. He
didn't get no support behind that when he tried to subpoena
Eric Mays. Eric Mays, he's one of the few politicians I've met, and I want to say, maybe that's unfair because there are a lot of good public servants, just not a lot around our area. But Eric Mays, I'll back him up. The man's broke, so he can't be stealing much money unless he's got a terrible vice we don't know about. And I don't think Eric Mays would take a bribe. You gave him a bribe, he'd be like Kilbreath. He'd be setting up a recorder and taping you and taking it to the FBI.
Right.
Well, I got advice. Take it to somebody elsewhere in the FBI like we did. A guy named Bob Carmack who did a press conference here because he's at war with the mayor of Detroit. Somehow the prosecutor in Genesee County became the special prosecutor. Let me just say, Bob Carmack, he spent $30,000 on Mike Duggan for tearing down his car wash. He plowed it, if you heard the story. He's been spending a lot of money checking into David Layton's life. I pity the man. That's all I'll say about it. I'm not at liberty to reveal stuff that Carmack has, but this thing stinks. And if he showed at the press conference 1 year and 15 days ago, a judge dismissed the case, a deed fraud case, a phony case, dismissed it. And the judge said, why? This is, I don't know the exact quote, but the judge made it clear that why on earth are there charges here? That was pretty much what he said. That's not the exact quote. And he dismissed everything. A year and 15 days later, they bring back the charges and the press conference. And by the way, Carmack sent out a press release and wanted his name in it and mentioning he's going to talk about David Layton. Does it surprise you that later that day they refiled charges in the deed fraud case and asked him to show up so they could put 2 tethers on his legs? Why is this happening? And I've always been a supporter of David Layton getting more prosecutors because people don't go to jail the way they should around here. I understand our jails are full. I get it. Build more jails. Put the bad guys away. Sheldon Neely, you're closing the Flint City lockup because you can't pay for it. The bills from the city are always late. I go to the Genesee County Board of Commissioners meetings. You know, they talk every once in a while. Hey, are we going to get a check from the city of Flint? I mean, they don't pay their bills. Sheldon, pay your bills. You're a city. Get the heck out of office if you can't pay your bills.
Man,
I'm
I feel
rambling,
you.
but
No,
I'm angry.
listen. Right. I see you, man. Hey,
By the way,
Mike. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I want to add this, and I think I said it on the show. I supported Sheldon Neely every single time he ran for city council. I supported him 3 times when he ran for the state house. You know, one of those races, if you remember, we got a lot of attention because Omar Sims ran for that seat, and he was everybody's choice. They thought he'd be the guy. All the big shots were backing him. We backed Sheldon Neely. And we used the power of our radio show to really embarrass Omar Sims. You know, Reed Landis, he did this clever song about, Omar not being able to talk real well, like he got marbles in his mouth. I like Omar. We didn't call him a crook because I don't think he's a crook. I have no evidence. Just thought that Sheldon would be a better man. Omar Sims, I want to apologize to you today because we should have endorsed you. Now, the first time Sheldon Neely ran for mayor, a guy named Art Woodson was campaigning for Karen Weaver. Or, excuse me, I think that wasn't Sheldon's race. Sheldon, the first time, Art Woodson switched and went for Sheldon, I believe. The next time he went for Karen Weaver. Art Woodson was big enough to apologize and say, hey, I shouldn't have endorsed Sheldon Neely. Well, it's hard, when you endorse people. Over the years, someone did a tally while I've been sick. 84% of the politicians we've endorsed during my career of more than 30 years of owning newspapers and doing the Morning Gazette radio show for 12 years, they've won their elections. So that tells me people trust me. One old guy with wisdom said, Mike, you're just picking the guys you think you're going to win. Well, I revealed, I've had mafia clubs of community leaders that meet once a week, once a month around the community. And we called ourselves the Mafia Club because of a thing that happened in Fenton when my newspaper really started going. If you remember, we did the Mad Dog Madden case that put a bunch of police officers in prison. 60 Minutes came to town. And I think there were 30-some arrests and convictions. There were indictments from everything from, I think, every felony under the book, including murder. There were 4 indictments for murder out of that case. Now, we dug up some stuff in a field, had some tapes. I don't understand why a lot more people didn't go to jail, but some did. That was a huge case. It put Tri-County News on the map. We won national awards for investigative reporting, statewide awards, and our newspaper had credibility. Today, the media has no credibility. I take pride in the fact that if I tell the voters to vote for somebody, that's who I think you should do. And I wait until the Monday before Election Day. That's been my tradition. So that they can't say, well, they can throw stones and try to poke holes in what I do. Hey, I tell the facts. We had a case in Burton. I like Tina Conley. She hitched her wagon to a bunch of crooked cops. And last time, the guy that ran against Dwayne Haskins, the most nasty campaign I've ever seen. They made up fake people on the internet to rip Dwayne Haskins. And then these people turned their attention on me. We were doing a live interview a couple weeks out when I broke tradition. For the first time ever, I endorsed somebody early. I endorsed Dwayne Haskins over Danny Wells in that race 4 years ago. While we're live on the radio at a restaurant, we started getting Facebook posts by these phony people that had been ripping Dwayne Haskins, talking about my child support and how do you trust a guy who goes to jail all the time for child support? I never had child support. I raised 2 kids on my own, and we have 2 kids with my current wife. I didn't pay child support, and everyone knew it. You know, we had to pay $300 to get the IP address. We know who did it. Why he wasn't charged, I don't know. Mayor Haskins broke a campaign promise to me. He said, I get elected, I'll put him in jail. Statute's still running. You got 6 years. You just been reelected, Dwayne. Put him in jail. You know who did it. Mike Kilbreath has a memory like an elephant, too, if Dennis Pfeiffer will excuse the pun there. They have a press conference at 2 o'clock, I understand. Firing back. You know, I don't understand. They're going to have a press conference, him and Tanya Burns, to rip Liddell Lewis and Eva Worthing, who ripped them a couple days ago.
Man, did you see that bullshit? Did you see that bullshit Eva and Liddell did the other day?
I watched it. I wasn't invited, or I'd have been there. By the way, not inviting a member of the media wants to be invited. And I'm going to stop short of that. I haven't checked my emails to see if maybe the city did send me something on that, but that's another matter. I guess I don't need their press releases is what I used to say. Sheldon Neely got mad when the Eric Mays thing happened. Eric Mays called me at 7 a.m. on the morning he got the hell beat out of him the previous night at the bar by the chief of staff for Sheldon Neely. His former brother-in-law, by the way. Let me expose some stuff. Sheldon, did you bail out a wife beater in your life? A wife beater who beat up your wife, your sister? That's you.
I had Eric on the show, and he told me that when dude was whooping on him, he was saying me and Neely from the street. Me and Neely from the street.
Yep.
That's what Eric told me.
I have witnesses.
I was like, wow.
I've talked to a lot of the witnesses. The state police talked to a lot of the witnesses. They all back up Eric Mays and his story. Now, the state police troopers, they went to David Layton's office and asked for a warrant. And David Layton didn't issue it. Later, he let Sheldon Neely's uncle out of prison. Figure that one out. David Layton, you let one of the most notorious gangsters in the history of the city of Flint out of prison. Judge Fullerton put him there for a long time, as long as she possibly could. And you let him out. Sheldon Neely used his power as mayor to try to get his uncle out of prison. Is that right?
Wow.
There's a lot of guys in prison for marijuana that maybe should be let out of prison. But this guy did a lot more than marijuana, and everybody in the city of Flint knows it.
Yeah, but that's all he was charged for. You know what I mean?
That's correct, and I go with that.
That's what he was in. That's what I mean. That's what he was in there for. So.
How come Sheldon isn't fighting for all the others that are doing time for a lot less for marijuana? Why isn't he fighting for them? He only fought for his uncle.
Right.
At least publicly. Maybe behind the scenes. Maybe he is fighting for it. Maybe that's why the city of Flint is such a mess. And I'll say it, the city of Flint is a mess. I mean, the blight is terrible. It's awful. You know, you talk about John Carpenter. I remember once he got on my show and the Crim was coming to town. He challenged everybody. He called up the show and challenged everybody to meet him down where the expressway exit was. I think this was during the Dane Walling administration, to cut down the weeds so we're not embarrassed when people come to the city to run in the Crim. Because when they get off the expressway, they at least let them see a good thing. The old man was mowing that lawn by himself because nobody showed up to help.
Hey,
Dane
Mike, let
Wally
me ask you.
did
Go ahead.
nothing.
Go ahead. Hey, Mike, let me ask you a question, man. Who case you think was the worstest? Kathy Funk or John Gleason? If we gonna
Well,
put levels on the crime, levels on the crime. If we gonna put
Kathy
levels on
Funk
the crime.
pleaded guilty to tampering with ballots. For the whole story, we presented it the fact that state police troopers were coming to me for quite a few weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And it seemed to be a conspiracy that went to the top, to the governor's office and maybe higher. Now, these cops, I'll say it, they were right-wing Trump fans, and maybe they thought there was something there. But when 1 or 2 come, you can ignore that. But when a whole bunch are coming to you, you start looking into it. And I find out that, yeah, there was a break-in at the Flint Township office. A break-in that was, as the police officers say, clearly staged. It was impossible for, and I want to say, I want to talk about the media in this town. This is the first time I've revealed this. The media, they kept mentioning dozens of stories that a canister fell off the shelf. She didn't put the votes in a canister. She put them in a bag, one of those bags, and tied it with a little thing. So there was no canister. So I planted that at the urging of a certain attorney to set up the media that they copy my stuff. Now, every media said canister, just like Mike Kilbreath said. There wasn't no canister, folks. It was a little bag. So I digress. But the true story is she took votes home, absentee votes. And the people in her office said, hey, the absentee votes are missing. And she said, oh, no, you guys are so overworked. I took them home. Are you kidding me? It's against the law to take the ballots out of the office. That's number one. She took them home to count them? It's kind of like she wanted to keep that job real bad, would be my opinion. Now, others were impacted. Because of that, those votes, we went to bed that she was losing, if you remember, and we woke up, the absentee ballots put her over the top. And then, so they couldn't count those ballots and open up the polling books and take a look at that stuff. There was a break-in. Look, the canisters and the bag of votes, not the canister. I mean, even copied it myself. It's easy to do, I guess, if you don't do your homework and really investigate folks in the media. And this canister, which was a bag, is in the floor. The state police tried, and there's no way for that bag to hit the floor and to break the seal. And the law, for those that don't understand, if the seal is broken, that's it. No recount. So there was a break-in. There was no break-in. Her and her husband came into the office in the middle of the night. According to state police, they obviously staged the break-in. She blamed the township supervisor, Karen Miller. Karen Miller was out of town. She was in Georgia, I think, or North Carolina. She had nothing to do with it. She also went after a Flint Township police officer who turned his life upside down with her accusations. She was told by the judge not to make any more Facebook posts. Has she abided by that decision? I still am trying to get the letter of apology. The guy that did the case for the attorney general, he's not returning calls for other media members checking into this, I'm told. He's not returning calls to others who want to see that apology who are impacted, especially 5 people. And let's calm them down. Rod Shoemaker, he's been elected to township supervisor positions over the last 30 years in 3 different townships in Genesee County. He ran for county commissioner. Now, Rod Shoemaker's been doing this long enough to know how to do the absentee ballots. He can tell you within 5 either way how many absentee ballots he's going to get every election. He had a couple hundred missing. They didn't come through, and he lost a close race. Don Wright, the old political guy for Don Williamson, he decided to be a politician himself. He's running for a few things now. He ran, and this time he put some money into it, and he did it right. he was shocked. He lost, and he knows about absentee ballots. His didn't come through. And he lost to the guy, Dominic Clemens, who became the county board chairman. I was there. If you remember one morning, I was mad at John Gleason, and they only want to give you 2 minutes to talk. And we had a lady mad about the mask. She didn't want to wear a mask, and it was causing problems for her kid. And she went on for 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. And people kept jumping up out of the audience and saying, I devote my time to whatever this lady's name was. And I sat back and I smiled and I said, they can't do that. You can't devote your time to somebody else like you see in Congress. You know, they devote their time to another member of Congress. And I went and read the laws and everything. And, well, they don't have a law against it, so I guess it's okay. Now they've set a precedent. And I told Dominic Clemens, you idiot. I didn't say idiot, but that's pretty much what I said, that you shouldn't be letting me do this, but I'm going to talk as long as I want to talk this morning. And I had said on the radio show, I'd asked for people to come and, be in the audience, and I needed more than the 2 minutes. I probably needed about 18 to 20 minutes. So I need 9 or 10 of you to show up and give me some extra time. Well, I miscalculated. I went a little longer than 18, 20 minutes, but people kept popping up and giving me 2 more minutes. I just kept talking. And, I challenged when they tried to stop me early on. I told Dominic Clemens, I kind of cited the laws and said, you set a precedent before. Your city attorney, your county attorney over there at Corporation Counsel, Mr. Layton, I think you better defer to him on whether or not you can stop me from talking this morning. And David Layton's like shaking his head, no. So I got to talk as long as I want. And when I was done, Don Wright was one of the guys giving me his 2 minutes, but he took a little bit to tell Dominic Clemens, you shouldn't be the county board chairman. I should be on that position. So that's 2. Trying to remember all 5. Oh, George Menudis, rest his soul. He died at 97 years old, about 2 years after this all happened. Serving on the Flint Township Board was his life. He didn't lose that election. He had never lost a Flint Township election. Anybody who voted for George Menudis didn't vote for Kathy Funk. If you have spoiled ballots, there were a lot of spoiled ballots, more than normal. All she had to do it was a primary, just fill in one Republican, boom, that ballot's no good, that voted against supposedly Kathy Funk. Frank Castle had been on the board, 20 years, lost a close race. I don't think he lost because he was on a platform all the time with George Menudis. So George Menudis, Frank Castle, they're on the opposite side of somebody who would have voted for Kathy Funk. So think about it. All these guys lost their elections because the clerk that they appointed, and God bless them for appointing the lady. I don't think she's doing a very good job, but she was the rightful person because she won that election. When Kathy Funk resigned under pressure, they appointed.
Hey, Mike. So it's safe to say that Kathy Funk's cases was the worst, by far the worst, right?
No, because her reward, other than getting probation and writing a letter of apology, and I don't want to blame the judge. They cut a deal with her, number one. So I don't want to blame the judge at all. I think he's a good judge. It's Judge Mark Lachana. I think she's messing with the wrong judge if she didn't make that letter of apology. I don't think the judge can do anything about it. He needs the prosecutor to bring it forward. The prosecutor, I'm told, has retired. His name is no longer on the organizational chart at the Attorney General. He'd been there a number of years. I think the head of the criminal division. They got a big guy on this one. Well, I don't understand. But you mentioned which one's worse. John Gleason,
I know both of them are crying.
He heard the rumors that she had fixed an election.
Right.
The night that she resigned. If you remember why she resigned, she got a new job. She's being investigated for fixing an election, and she gets a job being in charge of elections for John Gleason's office. So who's worse? I guess John Gleason gave her a reward. Here's a job. We'll give you everything you're making in your current job. Come on, work for us. And John Gleason, he said on the night it happened, he made a comment, I hadn't hired her yet. She already told me they had hired her. I preserved the conversation. It was better than an interview because she wrote it down, texting back and forth to me. She was trying to blame Karen Miller for everything. And at one point, I said, hey, state police don't feel that way. She blocked me from Facebook. I can't talk to her anymore. I can't even see her Facebook. I have to rely on sending me screenshots.
Hey, Mike, speaking of the police, you broke down some about the good old boys out in Burton, right? Remember that?
Yeah, that case is blowing up.
I want to play this clip from your show, and then I want you to narrate it. What's going on? Hold on a second. Hold on.
Hi, you called?
I called for what? What's that?
Someone from your phone number called 911 reference trouble at the Sharkies.
Yes.
Who else here? That's what I mean. Did you call?
I'm sorry, what was that?
That's what I mean. Did you call? There's no name. It's just an anonymous male called reference trouble. Just trying to figure out what's going on out there.
Where are you calling from? Who is this?
The Sergeant Briggett from the Sabre Police Department. You called the Burton Police, called 911, and someone did from the phone number reference trouble at Sharkies.
I'll be dealing with the state police on this.
You'll be dealing with the state police. Well, I got an idea. Go to our station. We'll deal with it one-on-one, okay?
One-on-one. I already had the guy call me. We've got a major problem here. So I'm going to have the state deal with this and internal affairs.
I am internal affairs.
You are internal affairs?
Yes.
What's your name?
Sergeant Briggett.
All right. What's your badge number?
586.
All right. And what's your phone number I can reach you? You're calling from your private number.
Yeah, I don't give out my private cell phone number. I'm on the road running calls. If you want to reach me, call the office at 810-742-2542.
All right. Were you the officer that showed up to help them out?
My extension is 2508.
Okay. Were you the officer that showed up?
Yes.
Okay. Then why did that guy call me and threaten me?
I don't know.
How did he get my phone number?
Good guess.
That's why internal affairs is going to look into this, and you're not internal affairs.
Well, we don't have internal affairs. That's what sergeants for.
That's why I'm going to take this up with the state, because if I called something in on an anonymous tip because somebody's acting the way I just said, and he calls to threaten me.
Hey, guess what? 911's not an anonymous tip. 911's public information, buddy. That's what you
then
don't
why
realize.
would he call me?
You want to pick up your phone and call 911 and make some type of accusation? You got to bet that's public information. There's nothing anonymous or secretive about it. It's all public information. So before you start throwing shit at me, you better understand what you're talking about.
I'm not throwing shit at anyone, but you know what?
Well, clearly you are, because you're calling 911 reference trouble, but you're hiding behind whatever's going on.
I'm not hiding behind anything.
Situation. Then who are you and what's going on?
I'll deal with this tomorrow. This is not cool what you guys are doing.
Exactly. You're hiding it. You don't want to tell me who you are or what's going on.
There's nothing.
All right, we're the Burton Police. I will tell you this right now. The state police will not do anything with it. They're going to tell you to go to Burton, and I can guarantee you that's exactly what they're going to do. So before you think you're going to call around to the state and county office on the full shit, they're not going to deal with it. I've been doing this for 13 years. I'm not stupid. Now, if you have a problem and you're calling 911, but you want to hide behind your name and not tell what's going on, that's on you. That's all on you. Now, if there's a problem, we can deal with it. But you want to see him play games and all this internal affairs. We don't have internal affairs. That's what sergeants are for, and that's who I am. You want to see him call the state police.
Tell us what's going on, Mike, with that, man.
Well,
at that
the
point,
incident happened, and this, just to give you the thumbnail version, which will take a little bit to explain so people understand. In 2016, there's an incident at Sharky's Bar where a guy named Jones, according to multiple witnesses, we have recordings of the waitresses, others at the bar, the victim. So I'm not just making up a story or telling you what this guy said. We've collaborated with multiple witnesses. In fact, two sources tell us, and now the mayor of Burton last week confirmed that the FBI, this guy called the FBI after that phone call because he was rattled. There was a phone call in the night that really rattled him. And he called the FBI, and he thought up until last week when I told him that the FBI did nothing. The FBI wasn't in their jurisdiction, is what I'm being told. That's the way they wrote it up. You know my feelings on the Flint office of the FBI. And as luck would have it, the guy who called me yesterday from the FBI, he wrote an email to this guy, and I have that email because the guy gave me the email. So I don't understand what's going on here with the FBI. If people are saying it's outside their jurisdiction, I don't understand the FBI guidelines. Maybe it is. But they wanted not only these two guys fired, they wanted them charged with felonies, is what I'm told. Now, when you apply the law, and I've gone to retired judges, retired prosecutors, and current and former police chiefs, not one person disagrees with what I said. They might not want to stand up, put their name on it just yet, but I think they will if public pressure causes them to be on the record. Because I'm guessing this would be a court case. You know, usually on court cases, I say, hey, my work is work product. Supreme Court says so. I'm not testifying. I'd be glad to get this character under oath.
Hey, Mike, is that the son? Do he work for Davidson PD now?
He is a current police officer. As of my text exchange this morning with the mayor of Burton, the mayor of Davison, he's still a police chief there. And I'll read you the quote that's going to go in our story when we put it up on the website. He says, I want to make sure I'm accurate. I'm going to read. He says, the mayor here doesn't hire and fire officers. There's a chain of command and a union that handles that. Okay? So that's his response. Later, he says, also, the Burton banner isn't really news. Send me something with facts, some investigation, something. I've always liked the guy, but...
hey, I don't want to use the same guy. Davidson PD whooped on a partner of mine, Devlin Chambers, man, back a few months ago.
Well, I can tell you I've had, and this is a funny story. I think I mentioned this on my show. When an investigator, and I want to praise Burton Mayor, Dwayne Haskins, and Burton Police Chief, Brian Ross. They've been through hell. The former sheriff, Bob Piquel, told me those are two of the finest men to ever wear a badge. Now they're holding people accountable in Burton during his first administration. He fired this Driggett character. I don't think he can reveal, what's in the personnel file, but I know what's in that personnel file, except it's missing, by the way. It disappeared. That's another story for another day. He fired a guy for stealing an officer who stole money from the K-9 fund. He fired a guy for ethnic intimidation who had a road rage incident with a citizen while he was off duty. And he fired him. He's facing charges, a 14-year veteran of the force. He fired Jones on the very morning after I privately played him the tape of Jones in the restroom at the bar when a big guy, and this guy, him and his friends, they're like 6'5", 6'7", 6'9". They're big guys. And this officer, Jones, we have a recording of what he said in the restroom to these guys. When they're like, hey, why are you hitting on that young lady, that young girl? Priceless. And then we have a recording, and to set the stage, these three guys, the young guy comes out of the bathroom, and this Jones had been hitting on a girlfriend, according to multiple witnesses. He goes outside, leaving with his girlfriend. And there's a whole bar full of drunken Burton cops. Witnesses tell me they were there for 7.5 hours drinking. Bunch of drunken cops. And according to multiple witnesses, they're chanting, kick his ass, kick his ass, kick his ass. So Jones gets up, follows them outside. These three big guys decide, we're not going to let him go beat on this guy. So they go out. He flashes a badge at him. He says, you're going to go to jail tonight for I'm going to throw cocaine in your car. What? So they go up to the Speedway, and if you've ever been to Sparky's or Sharky's, the Speedway is up on the hill. They went up on the hill. They called 911, said, hey, there's a guy threatening to kill a guy in the parking lot. I hope he doesn't get in his car and drive because he can't walk straight. 2 Burton cruisers show up like instantly. This guy, Jones, goes to the window, according to multiple witnesses, and he's chatting a little bit with the officer, goes around to the driver's or to the passenger side, gets in the vehicle, and boom, the big guy's phone rings. It's Jones. And this guy had the wherewithal to tape record that conversation. Now, Jones makes a call like, who are you? Come back here, face me like a man. What? Now, there's a problem with that. He asked to be anonymous. I also have the 911 call where he called to complain to a supervisor. Hey, you gave out my phone number. And 911 said, we didn't give out your phone number. You asked to be anonymous. Obviously, Burton police can see it. They gave out your phone number, and that's a crime. You should report it. You should go to the Burton Police Department. He tried to go to the state police. Like Officer or Sergeant Driggett at the time said, they're going to send you to Burton. Now, in Flint Township, when I spoke to have Lisa Anderson a few months ago removed because she didn't live in Burton, or in Flint Township, she lived in Georgia, and I proved it at the podium. They only gave me 5 minutes, but I cited all the laws and what they needed to do, just ask her for a driver's license because she had sold her house in Flint Township months earlier, 2-3 months earlier, and still serving. I had someone capture a photo of her getting out of her rental car in the parking lot. I had a photo that night of her getting on the plane at Bishop Airport to fly back to Georgia with Georgia up on the screen. I mean, how much more can you get on someone? And the police chief there, he said, well, I'm not going to investigate one of my own. You got to go to the state police. I think that's the way it should be done. Burton shouldn't be investigating one of their own. That's the way it's set up there. I hope Chief Ross has changed that. Or maybe it never was. I don't know. But this guy went to the FBI. He went to the state police. And nothing got done. He was scared. And it gets worse. There was a nasty conservatorship fight. 3 kids are fighting over a guy's property. He goes to a home. And they all have vehicles stored at a big, this guy has a classic car collection. There's a bunch of cars stored there. More than 100 vehicles of 7 different individuals. 2 of the kids grab all the cars, are ours. And that story gets worse because the guy who made that phone call to 911, he's one of the guys that had 33 cars in a tow truck there. A tow truck he bought, it was worth over $140,000. 33 cars he spent over $200,000 for. I spoke out about this at a Burton City Council meeting, and I replayed that entire clip on my show. It was an egregious error by a judge. Why it hasn't been fixed? It's a year and a half later. I don't get it. You know, there's movement. I talked to a lady in Kentucky yesterday that had some conversations with a state senator's staff, and then a state senator called her yesterday, and they're trying to change laws about conservatorships. And I want to summarize what I found out in conservatorships. And that's what this guy's caught up in because his vehicles and 6 other people with vehicles are on this property, and Burton police wouldn't help him. And he has multiple recordings, and so do other tenants in that property of Burton police telling him they refuse to take a police report. Get the hell out of Burton. That's what the common theme was. Now, did they target this guy and his friends because he called 911? The guy was executed on the street, Lippincotton Center, in the parking lot of a party store in 2015 by Driggett. And I'm going to say it, executed, because I believe in what my reporter told me. At the time, we didn't do a follow-up story because they shut it down. The witnesses wouldn't talk. Without witnesses, kind of like the police, you can't go any further. We presented everything. I sent a copy of that story to the Davison mayor. That was his response. About maybe I didn't send the copy. I don't know. Maybe I haven't even sent it yet. I think I told him I'd send it after I did this interview. Burton Banner's not news. Yeah, well, citizens of Burton, they used to think so. And Burton Banner was my newspaper there that we recreated online just for impact, I think, to give people of Burton a separate part on the Daily Gazette of Burton stories. Because we have more listeners in Burton than we have anywhere else. We can count them, and it shows us where they come from. we've averaged 3,500 listeners a morning for the last 12 years, or at least the last 4 or 5 years that we've been doing internet radio.
Hey, Mike. Reason why I had brought up about the Burton PD is because I had seen a disturbing video. I'm gonna send it to you.
All right.
It was African American girls, two African American girls. They was at Myers. I ain't got the total research yet. I don't know if it was the Myers on Hill Road or it was the Myers on Center Road. But either way, it was either Burton or Grand Blanc police. Anyway, they was in there shopping for their kids, so diapers, wipes, and all that. And the guy, the police walked up to her, and she started filming. And he was like, "You guys got to go. You're on the radar as shoplifters." And the girl said, "I haven't ever even been in it. I don't even live here. I live in Texas. I've never been to this Myers before." They said, "Well, you're on the radar for shoplifting. You got to go." It was just so right. And she was like, "That's racial profiling." And then she talked to the manager. Then they changed the story up and said, "Well, one of the employees said that you guys still known to steal." So, but they thought it was a bunch of bullshit. It was some racist bullshit. Like, I gotta send it to you. I should have pulled it up, man. And I should have showed it to you. I'm gonna send it to you.
It's sad to hear tales like that. I know there are bad cops. I've been a big opponent of law enforcement. I'll tell you.
That's racial profiling to the fullest, man.
And I will disclose the Burton Banner. My reporter that did this story, John Benjamin, was a fine reporter. He was a black kid. He quit 2 or 3 weeks after that incident when I wouldn't go forward with the story he wanted to run about Burton police threatening witnesses. I didn't believe it until I heard that tape with my own ears of these officers. And there's more than one tape in this case. I haven't played them. I'm going to spoon feed them, for effect. I'm not the police. I'm a radio show guy, and we're going to do a TV show. We'll be on Channel 90 every Sunday. And, I can't do a weekday morning show. We are going to bring back Metro Flint News Talk Radio. I'm tired of laying on the couch. My wife tried to retire me. After 49 years of being a journalist, a year on the sidelines has just made me angry. I talked to a guy
Hey, Mike, is this a job or a passion to you? Which one is it? Or is it both?
It's a passion. However, my wife is retired. She gets 75% of her pension, a good pension. I'm on Social Security now, and we can live comfortably and pay our bills. We did a GoFundMe to raise some money for some of the astronomical bills I've got. For those who don't know, I got hit with COVID, and it caused congestive heart failure and kidney failure. And I'm on dialysis. If any of your listeners are strong and healthy, I need a kidney. All I need is somebody to give up a kidney, and maybe somebody in Illinois or Ohio, there might be a match, and we can send your kidney to them, and they do what's called a swap at U of M Hospital in Ann Arbor. But it costs a lot of money to stay alive. That's for sure, to answer your question. But is it a passion? Yes. Do I need it? No, but the extra money would be nice. I'm addicted to, when those commercials start showing in. I'm sad to say I had 16 people I couldn't get to. I had a new restaurant out in Clio that gave me a free meal. And those of you who've seen me, Mike Kilbreath's never turned down a free meal, especially when I got the food Nazi in my house. Doesn't let me eat the way I want to anymore. I have to eat healthy. I can't even identify some of the stuff that goes in front of me. But she's trying to keep me alive. And when she catches me eating badly, she says, "I'm going to quit. I'm going to let you die." And I'm like, you're bluffing because you worked awful hard to keep me alive. So I credit my wife with keeping me alive. And, it's been a tough battle, a year on dialysis, 3 days a week. I joke that they try to kill me 3 days a week and I keep surviving. Some days I come home and like yesterday, I must have gone over my 50 ounces. I can't go under or over, or it causes problems in the dialysis chair. Well, about 2.5 hours in yesterday, I had pains. You could probably hear me in Davison where they need to fire that cop screaming because it feels like they're breaking your legs with cramps. They shut down the dialysis, pulling stuff out of me, and they're still got the blood going in and out. But I don't understand. I'm not a doctor, but apparently that pulling fluid out needs to be done at the same time. I had a little nap yesterday for, 16 hours. So that's the way my life goes. So to answer your question, I'm not capable of working a 5-day week or a 7-day week like I've always done in my life, but I can do one show a week, a national TV show that's going to be 30 minutes sometime after Thanksgiving. We're now waiting for the start date, and it's kind of exciting. We mentioned it at the press conference last week. That I'm doing because I think my message needs to get out. And as people have encouraged me, you need to get that message out to more than just Flint, because people need to hear what. And like that text from the Davison mayor.
Right.
Burton Benner's not really news? Really? Yeah, really?
Hey.
Okay, that offends me.
Hey,
I put state and national awards. And, I wasn't going to say this. I was asked by some Black Lives Matter people, does this mayor own a business? Yeah, it's B-Dogs on the main drag there in Davison. That's where his business is. Don't know why you want to know, but that's where it is. B-Dogs.
Hey,
there.
Right. Hey, Mike, I want to I can't get on here and not ask you about this, man. Being from Flint, what you think about the water crisis, man? What you think how the AG fucked it up, man? Her and Kim Worthy and all them motherfuckers, man. What's your take on that, man?
Well, if you remember, and I've played this a number of times on my radio show, on the morning after they hit the switch. Or maybe it was a Friday and the Monday after they hit the switch, I came on the radio screaming and yelling. And I said, don't drink the water. And at that particular time, there was a problem plowing snow. They had the emergency manager, excuse me for that phone ringing in the background, but the emergency manager had sold all the snowplow equipment. I guess they didn't plan ahead for a snowstorm. If you remember, it crippled Flint. I think it was like 10 days. He couldn't even open school because the roads were impassable. I said, you can't trust people that can't plow the snow off your streets to mix chemicals at the water plant. I said it on day one. Didn't surprise me. When Dana Nessel got elected, I had been at the Detroit Economic Club to hear her speak, Dana Nessel, during her campaign, and she mentioned the first thing she'd do was quit wasting all these millions of dollars on prosecuting people in the Flint water crisis. Did not surprise me. Now, you look behind, and why did Rick Snyder endorse Gretchen Whitmer? Figure that one out. He's a Republican, she's a Democrat. The fix was in. They wanted to make sure he didn't go to jail. That's Mike Kilbreath's opinion. And I think I have a lot of proof to back up that opinion. We'll see. I'm still investigating. And lots of people are investigating. And I'm trying to corroborate all of them together. We figured out what caused the Flint water crisis. There were a lot of shenanigans with people pointing fingers at each other. But back to Dana Nessel. Bob Carmack was sitting next to me that day that they had the big meeting at the UAW hall. And they went on the stage, her and Kim Worthy, talking about they're going to drop charge. They had already dropped charges, but they waited 2 weeks to make a statement about it. No statements for 2 weeks. Why? They got their arms around all the outspoken people in the water crisis. And some of them they couldn't pay to go away. They gave them a seat at the table. If you remember, before the media was crowded around to ask questions when Kim Worthing and Dana Nessel came out of that back room after the press conference, they went to a back room. They met with some select citizens of Flint. And these citizens got to walk out in front of Dana Nessel and Kim Worthing. Folks, you were played. They wanted to shut you up, and they did. I went on the radio the next morning and said, nobody's going to jail. Now, after they had the one-man grand jury and indicted these characters, I went on the radio the next morning and I said, you can't do that. The Supreme Court will strike it down. I hate to be right all the time, but
man,
I'm right all the time, it seems like.
Hey, that's some bullshit. People they've been sending people to prison 100 years for the one-man jury. I went to prison for the one-man jury. That's bullshit. That's a bullshit excuse. Sorry.
And if you'd had the money to get an attorney to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court, it would have been dismissed.
Wow.
I said that on day one.
A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that, Mike, because you got a lot of one-man juries guys in prison. You know?
I want to say, and I got contacted by Black Lives Matter. I'm not a fan of what they did, burning down cities and everything. I understand the anger, but burning down cities and all that was it set back the movement, so to speak, because it gave a bad connotation for all of America. That you want to burn down a city because they shot an unarmed black guy. I get it. I understand the problem. I understand the anger, but they needed to go about it in a different way to get change. And that change comes with lawyers and money, and that's what needs to be done. The millions that went into Black Lives Matter, where's it gone? I ask you, where's it gone? I believe you're a black guy. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where did the Black Lives Matter millions go? What did it do for the movement? Do we have anything any better now? And this incident with this Driggin in Burton, that was before Black Lives Matter. Imagine what would have happened if it happened during the height of Black Lives Matter and all the marches. Because I've looked at a lot of the guys that were victims and the girls that were victims. Very few were innocent as far as criminal records. I had criminal records. Because you have a criminal record, you still have rights. You don't shoot them. They're bad cops. I get it. However, this guy that was executed in the city of Burton, I'm going to keep saying it like my reporter did. He saw the video. And he said, Mike, they executed him. Now, to tell the story, they called 911. I've got the 911 tape. This Driggett shows up. Witnesses say he body slammed the guy when he couldn't get control of him to take him home across the street. Body slammed him, pulled out a gun and shot him. And he claimed he reached for my gun. He was too drunk to reach for your gun. That's what I'm told.
Man, well, that's wild right there.
That would have been like the classic case to hang their hat on, because this guy was truly an innocent person. Now, I remember the one in Kentucky where the police, they broke down the door and shot the girl. She's pretty innocent. Some of the others, they had criminal records, but that doesn't mean a police officer can pull out a gun and shoot them. And I get being a police officer. You know, I have a son who was a police officer in the city of Detroit. I get it. It's a scary job. Every time that phone rings at night, you worry that something happened to your loved one. I understand
Mike,
from a police officer standpoint.
Right. And I want to shout out Miss Brenda Boyd too. She said back in the day her husband was a supervisor at the water plant, and she said everybody that worked at that water plant died of cancer, man. Everybody that worked there in the 70s and 80s. And she said even the secretary, man. Everybody, including her husband and all the workers, they all died of cancer, man. Every last one of them. Every last one of them, man.
We've done a lot of checking. There's one guy who won't go on camera with us that is very seriously ill because of working at the water plant. I want to go back and I want to do justice to a story that hasn't been out in the media. And we found that an employee at that water plant, and one of my guys has talked in depth with his sister, and he was able to get his hands on notes. Now, I'm not going to identify who the guy is. He's been working on this for a long time. He got the actual notes that this guy had written. And these notes were offered to the FBI because they had been looking into this. You know, I'm on record about my feelings of the Flint FBI. This guy, he was out filming an area by Lockhart Chemical, filming there. That night he went home, he called his sister and he said, hey, there's tracks in the snow. Someone's been at my house. And he went inside and they wrote it up as an overdose. She says he didn't do drugs. Now, this guy, his notes indicated that filming at the water plant, and he had a hunch that one of the drains at Lockhart Chemical were going into the Flint River. And those drains were going there, and he wanted to do a dye test to make sure that was true. The dye test never got done, and those notes, FBI didn't do anything with them. Those notes indicate that he was on to something. Well, I had a couple guys that did that dye test, probably illegal to put these blue chemicals in the water. I told them not to do it for the record, but they did the dye test. They have video